Greetings, brothers and sisters. So I'm going to get to stuff to do with Kanye praying and Pete Davidson mocking him and all these things. In a moment, some other stuff, celebrity related, and celebrity call for the end of the war from somebody on that goofy soccer show. But I wanted to start off with an introduction of something I was talking about at the end of my video yesterday, and it has to do with the so-called truth community. So in terms of our economic system, do you know of a replacement system, a system that's more natural, that is not insolvent, that is, based in spiritual principles and the laws that, divine laws that govern the universe? Do you have an economic system like that, right? To replace our demonic debt-based usury system, do you have a system that would seamlessly just replace a system that is in every way proven to be against our best, our best nature, right? Against helping us become what we're supposed to become, taking us off our divine path, right? Being overly materialistic and dumbing us down and being unnatural and hurting the environment on a spiritual level and then on a material level. I mean, everything. Like, there's so many things that are negative about our system. Of course, there's the perks, there's the privileges that we have, the lifestyle. But do you have a system? Does anybody out there have a system that could replace our current system? A better system? And maybe somebody does. Like, I don't. Like I couldn't do that. But maybe somebody has this system, like it's channels some divine economic system that would, enhance our material life whilst simultaneously be working for us spiritually, bringing out the best in us spiritually and all these other things, right? An economic system that's natural and divine and these things. Maybe somebody could come up with that. But even if they could, getting people to accept it would be, like it takes years and years to accept something like that. That's why this system has to collapse, because the debt-based economic system was rejected for years. I mean, thousands of years. People wanted to run this Ponzi scheme, this scam. And, people, indigenous people, tribal people, village-based people, these kind of natural ways of being had no part of it, right? There's always been scammers that tried to push a system that was weighted in their favor, that they controlled, that was based in debt, a usury system. Like there's always been that. Like, so that's not something new. And, you think about just like technology. Like, I was late to the party with cell phones. I didn't get my, first real cell phone until we returned to America in 2016. And so I saw the benefits of cell phones, but really never needed one in terms of us living on a homestead. And, I knew all the negatives with it. And so, eventually I had to, it was like one of those things where our homestead collapsed and I went through, a divorce, all these things with my, kids. We're no longer able to, we were in India. They saw all their friends using cell phones and being on the internet and all these things. My kids were on the internet before that, but it was fairly monitored and restricted. But then it was like, all right, they're just going to resent these other kids having, the freedom to do these things on the internet, and it's going to grow in terms of a samskara impression, because when you forbid something like they did with, say, alcohol, right? When they made alcohol legal, people still drank, but it became more of an obsession, because when you tell people, human beings, they can't do something, they're like, why not? I'm going to do it anyway, right? It's just when you restrict something, that's what's happened in religions too. When you restrict something, it makes it, more desirable for people to do. It's an unfortunate problem with human beings. Like, if you want to quit something, if you want to, like quit smoking or drinking, you don't want to be focused on the smoking or drinking. You want to be focused on something else, right? Like, take up something else, like eating healthy or, getting into shape. You have to, not make something forbidden. Just do something else that's better and different that, within that, in a positive way, you want to word it positively. You don't want to say stop smoking. You want to say be healthy, right? Your goal isn't to stop smoking, it's to be healthy. And not smoking is a part of that goal, right? Because that's how the human mind works, unfortunately. But, me talking about the cell phone thing, people weren't all on board. Even years ago, there was a great mini series about Silicon Valley. I can't remember what the name of it was. It was about the wars that, the original YouTube and the browser wars and things. It was called Valley of the Boom. It was about the internet boom. And it's well worth watching. But there was a time, and I think it was in that show, and maybe it was something else, that was sort of a documentary, where people didn't think everybody was going to own a computer. Like the idea of personal computers. When I was in high school, we had a computer that was the size of about 2 refrigerators, but next to each other. Like, it was this huge, it didn't do anything. Like, it was barely functional. There was no interface device. When you looked at it, it was just like X's and O's. And one of my friends was like, "Oh, we're playing the Star Trek game." And it was just like a bunch of numbers, like 3 digits of numbers, right? And most of them were zeros. And then there'd be a 1 somewhere in the middle. Like there was, like the first one represented a star, some kind of, like a base where you could recharge. And like number 2 was like a planet, and number 3 was like a Klingon warship, right? And you just saw a field of numbers, and you're supposed to pretend you were in the Enterprise. I mean, most of it was based in imagination, right? And you would go across these numbers, scanning it was just like ridiculous, right? Because they didn't have the kind of interface we have now. They didn't have a mouse. They didn't have, those things were, stolen from IBM, a lot of those things. That IBM didn't know what they had, right? There's a, movie about that. But anyways, there was this, idea that people would own personal computers. No one thought that was possible, and that people wouldn't go for it. And how are you going to sell that to people? Now everybody has a little computer in their pocket, right? Like a cell phone or watch or whatever it is. And they've gotten smaller and smaller, but in the beginning, people didn't want them. Like, why would you have a computer? Why would you want a computer? Most people didn't want them. And so it takes a while to sell something to people, even something that's going to make their life easier. And any kind of economic system, people don't want to change, right? So any kind of new economic system is going to have to be sold to people. And it takes a while for them to, switch over to something like digital currency, even though we're using digital currency now, right? Like they're having trouble just getting that done, the powers that be. And so getting people to accept something new in terms of a comprehensive change to one's lifestyle isn't going to happen, right? Like people just won't accept it. And when you're talking about an economic system, most people won't understand it and won't like it. And so they'd be like, why are we getting rid of the one we have? I like the one we have. Like people resist change. And, it takes years it took a long time to get people off the farm and give up their lifestyle, the one that had been around for, thousands of years, and move into the city and have one specialized skill and work for money, debt slavery, instead of owning your own little homestead or farm and village-based communities that people liked, right? And so it took TV and took these different things like, getting a TV into everybody's house. So you understand this? People don't want to change. And so even if there was a better system that could replace this system without, a complete collapse of our civilization, people wouldn't accept it, right? They're having a hard time selling them, just a global reset, especially when it comes to, a new economic system that was healthy would be about giving up things that you're addicted to, giving up, hours on the internet, giving up lifestyle privileges and things that people aren't going to accept. And so that's why there has to be a collapse first. There has to be desperation time where people are open to change, right? Where things are so bad, they're open to change, like wars and, catastrophes. And, people have to be like shaken out of this, the entitlements and this lifestyle that they've grown up with, right? To go backwards in terms of their privileges and things. The other piece of this about the truth community is, there's like this idea that the truth community is some, brand new idea that is, like, for example, many people already knew that the food system was poisoning them. Many people know that the fast food system is bad, that processed foods are bad, that, cigarettes are going to kill you. I mean, they put a warning label on cigarettes, right? And pharmaceutical drugs. They have to, when they do a commercial, they have to list all this possible side effects, right? Like, why would something that's medicine have all these side effects? I mean, even Daji Kamlesh Patel, the master of the heartfulness system, who's a pharmacist, said, yeah, they always have side effects, right? Like, pharmaceutical drugs have side effects. And yet people, like, they'll take them and they're like, oh, why is this happening? Well, because it's a side effect. It's not a side effect, it's an effect, right? It just depends on your particular system on whether it's going to hit you. Like, it's like 20% of people are going to suffer this, right? But in terms of cigarettes and fast foods and like processed foods, we know how that ends. They're, there's carcinogens, they cause cancer, they cause heart disease. The number 1 and 2 killers are caused mostly by the food, sugar, right? Diabetes and all the toxins and chemicals, all the, the bad fats, all the, it's just, this food sucks, right? Read the ingredients. That's something I've talked about. And so most people, well, not most people, but have a sense that what they're eating is unhealthy. They've been told by their doctors or by their family members, right? Some along the line, alcoholism, alcoholics, smoking cigarettes, people know it causes lung cancer, and they do it anyway. They're taking some form of poison. All of us are taking some form of poison, right? And until our health starts to suffer, people won't change their diet, won't give up things that they love, right? And then there's the internet, the electromagnetic frequencies that aren't even, the different sorts of waves, microwaves and now millimeter waves. I mean, you have a microwave oven, you can do your own experiment, put something in there and cook the crap out of it, right? I mean, it just, see what it does. It changes it on a molecular level. And that's like put some kind of meat in there, which is, you're made out of meat, right? And so, like, you can do an experiment with it, just crank up the microwave and see what it does to, changes the molecular structure of meat or whatever the food is, right? And people are cooking with microwaves knowing that. And then they have microwaves in terms of 4G, and then they have millimeter waves in terms of 5G. And there's no studies, there's no governmental or scientific study or environmental studies about what 5G might do. Like, does it hurt the birds? Does it hurt, people? Like, what does it do? Like, what is it doing? In terms of the heartfulness meditation, the Whispers of the Brighter World, Babaji says electromagnetic pollution is devastating to people's subtle bodies, your spiritual essence. And of course, there's physical effects, right? And so how many people are going to give up their cell phones, and you realize this, and are going to move, to some other place, like a place that's devoid of this type of, cell towers and things and whatever it might be. Get away from it. And when you do get away from it, you can feel the difference. And so, you have all these people that claim to be truthers, but how many of them are willing to change their diet? How many of you are changing anything in your life based on the information that you're getting, right? Because, like, it's most people who are so-called truthers spend more time on the internet, and they just want to watch people's videos. They just want to, look at the problem today, right? I mean, you got all these, like I was talking about adrenochrome, you got all these, QBs, and people are like, oh my God, we got to save the children. We got to prevent them from being adrenochrome. They're just all these, we got to save them from the elite. And meanwhile, your kids are upstairs watching porn, right? They're on the internet watching porn, eating Fritos or whatever it is, right? Twinkies, some sort of, processed food. They're going to McDonald's. They're poisoning themselves, right? In terms of like long-term health effects. And they're on the internet 8 or 9 hours a day, but you're worried about some imaginary kids. I mean, as far as you're concerned, they're imaginary kids that are going to be, sacrificed for the so-called elite. while your children are suffering and, they're being exposed to all kinds of bad things in terms of their diet, in terms of the internet, in terms of lack of exercise, in terms of lack of social interaction, because people don't want to change themselves. They want to change other people. That's what, all this stuff's about. Everybody wants to change somebody else. Everybody sees, oh, this person should be this way, that person should be that way. Very few people want to change themselves. And I've seen this with the Heartfulness System, which is about character development. I mean, that's your role when you do the Heartfulness System, is work on your character development and be a better person. And very few people want to do that. Like some people, I mean, it's hard for me to even believe, get even worse. I've talked about this with, in some of my other videos, and about, some of the things with the Heartfulness YouTube channel and the people running it, right? And like, the third master of the system saying the guys that were around him were, they had the worst characters. They were arrogant, and these were guys who were, better before. And so the Heartfulness System has worked miracles in my life in terms of internal life and changing me. And so it's hard for me to even understand that. But there are people who have done the system and they've gotten worse in some way because of just being, whatever it is, right? And, that's a bummer for me, complete bummer, because it's like, the system's about people changing, but people don't want to change. If people don't change and then, they do something spiritual, then it just makes their poor qualities or poor character qualities stronger, and they get worse, right? So, that sucks. I mean, that's not a good thing. But I see it, here in the truth community. Everyone wants to change the so-called elite. Everyone wants to change the, other side of the, the sheeple or the whatever it is. Wants to change family members. Why doesn't family members believe what I believe? Well, are you changing in any way where they can see a positive change? Has being a truther made you into a better person? Is your lifestyle better? Are you, more balanced? Or are you just like a raving lunatic who are, well, my God, there's this and there's that and, whatever the new thing is, right? People are so freaked out about, the stuff to do with COVID, and now it's the stuff to do with the, Ukrainian war. There's going to be something else later. But what about you? What are you changing? Like, how are you changing in a way that is a good reflection for your family members? They're saying, oh, this person believes in these truther narratives, and they are now a better person. They're now more reasonable. Wow, look at the changes in this person. Or are you just wanting to change, expecting other people to change because of your now, your wisdom, your truther wisdom, right? That's why the truther community sucks, because very few people want to change, and they get worse in terms of their behavior. Like you're just, ranting and raving about whatever it is to people, leaving comments and, telling them they're wrong about the way they're viewing the world. As you eat, processed foods and you watch TV and you're on the internet all day, listening to other people's so-called research, right? It's you who has to change. It's all of us. Like if we don't change, the system won't change. But you're expecting everyone else to change based in your, your newfound knowledge. People have belief wars now in their families and with their friends. There was this guy, he had been a QB, he was a Christian. Somebody sent me the video. He was a young guy, and he had been really into Q. He had formed a group of QBs, right? And he decided after, the umpteenth time of Q being wrong, the Q stuff being wrong, and realizing it was a hoax, right? Them constantly moving the goalpost and whatever it might be, right? Constantly being, like just being on the wrong side of things. And so he quit, and he, admitted that he, no longer believed in this. And then the group that he formed, and one of the guys who was in the group was his personal friend before the Q stuff, and they were so-called Christians. And the guy told him to black all the listeners to blackball the guy and, harass him. I mean, they all turned on him, right? Because he had a change of heart, and none of it, like, now, I mean, I don't know, this was some years ago. This was from 3 or 4 years ago. But I mean, this is not unusual. It's not just for QBs. It happens in the truth community all the time. You're watching somebody and you're watching somebody else, and they have different beliefs, and the person that, believes what you believe with, you side with one person or another, and then you attack the other person, the presenter, or, your friend. It's just like, when are you going to change, right? When are you going to be a good person that people can look up to as an example? When are you going to become something that's, good because of the truth community. Most people who are in the truth community end up being harder and harder and more difficult to be around, and they feel so much superior to the so-called sheeple. But like, how are you better? Like, as a person, like, how are you? What? Because you know more stuff. Like, you think you know more stuff, right? What difference does it make? What difference does knowledge make if it doesn't help you change and adapt? What are you doing to prepare? What are you doing to make it better, the world a better place? What are you doing to change, right? Like, you want to, have some, if you have change in knowledge, but if you change your habits, the type of, your indulgences, the type of, things that you engage in, right? Have you become a better, whatever it might be, in terms of your, appetites, right? Or are you just some human internet bot that can't wait to spam and, harass other people, but is just an unpleasant person that nobody really likes and getting worse, right? Like, that's, I mean, how I see the majority of people who are in the truth community, because no one wants to change. Like, that's, the bottom line is you're trying to save a system because you don't want to change, right? You don't, and I don't want to have to, those types of changes, like not having fresh water, not having electricity. And, I know electricity is bad, right? Like, giving up the things that are bad for us. How many people want to do that? Like, how many people are willing to, and then you have people go out and go live off the grid, and you're still an asshole. Like, I mean, it's just something that we're weathering the storm. We're realizing our system sucks and trying to be flexible and trying to, not trying, working towards being flexible and adaptable, and, preparing our kids for this in a way that doesn't freak them out and make them feel weird, in terms of, because that's the other thing. How many people who are truthers have kids who are complete sheeple, that are, embracing the mainstream, because that's what kids do in America, right? They always believe with the opposite. They go the opposite way of their parents, right? You had all these hippie parents raising conservative kids, right? Democratic parents. I mean, think about all the kids who ratted their parents out when the big event happened with Trump's election. They were like saying, yeah, that's my mom. She was there, right? Like, sending their parents to jail. And so, like, you have this, it's a kind of a tragedy where kids rebel against their parents so much. They don't want anything to do with their parents and their beliefs. And so, it's just like a mess, and like acknowledging it's a mess, and then figuring out what can you do to make it, better? What can you personally do? How can you use this information and understanding and consciousness shift? Because, like I said, there was a truther movement just about food, or about the medical community, or about whatever it was years ago. Like, it's just, people have different ways of realizing the system is poisoning them in one way or another. People who say, hey, I'm going to stop watching TV. It was bad for me. I'm going to stop eating at McDonald's. It's, and they would change. They would change their diet. They would learn things. They would, okay, this is bad food. Let me find out what healthy food is. And they would have a healthy diet and, start, investing in those sorts of things, right? So some people, they look at this and they're like, okay, I'm going to apply this to my own life. I'm not just going to try to force everyone else to change and talk about how bad it is. I'm going to actually do changes and change things in my life, right? And that's what I was talking about in this whole thing with adrenochrome and all these, these goofy people writing me comments. No, you got to do your research. Oh, my God, just, like, do your own research, right? And research, like, how you can become a better person. And, like I said, the heartfulness system helps people connect to God and be a better person. But there's plenty of people I know who's become worse because of it. And, not that I knew them before, but my understanding of it is, and based on what, like, Master Chargy said, and, like, one of the people that was around, when he said that, like, all the people that were around Master Chargy, right, all the people, to a person, was arrogant and difficult and all these things. And this one guy who was, like, feeling about, oh, me, and he's talking about me, and, this one guy's like, but he also knew that these other people were worse. And they came to breakfast the next day, and they were all, after Master Chargy gave that talk, and they were patting each other on the back and laughing like nothing ever happened, right? And so he was kind of stunned by that. And so, Like it's just, it all comes down to changing. It all comes down to how are you making the world a better place? What are you doing? You see the problem. How can you be part of the solution? And if your solution is, oh, we just got to make the elite change, then like you're completely clueless, right? Or the Democrats or whatever it is. If your solution is about other people and you're, saying they have to change before the system gets better, then you're screwed. You have no concept of what this is really about, right? Okay, so I just wanted to preface this with this introduction. Let's go to the Kanye stuff first here. Okay, so we'll get to all this stuff in a second here. Just to, sort of wrap up what I was saying in the introduction. I'm not advising anybody to do anything. I will make sure about that. In any of my videos, I don't offer advice because what I am saying here is everyone needs to learn to, cultivate a relationship with the divine and figure out what their soul and God wants them to do. And that's a personal decision. I'm not suggesting people quit their jobs and run off into the woods and go off the grid because, the end might be nigh, right? We don't, that's not what I'm saying. I don't know what you should do, but I know that everyone needs to change. You can't expect other people to change. You can't change other people, but you can change yourself, and people need to change for the better. And cultivating a relationship with God and the divine, and that is the way, the heartfulness meditation is the way that I think that people need to go about it. Like that's personally what I had to do, what I did and, what has been successful for me, right? And, that kind of change can inspire other people. Like you might inspire other people to change. If you go to a higher level, then you might influence other people to choose to go to a higher level as well. But waiting for other people to change or, thinking that you can make other people change is the big failure of the human race, right? If you want to change the world, you want to make the world a better place, and you raise your vibrational level, like that's your choice. And you have to, that's why it needs to be a personal choice. You can't be doing it because of other people or because of, some guy said so, right? You have to have the will force behind you to execute that kind of a change, right? Whatever it might be for you, whatever, you and God come up with in terms of what you're supposed to be doing. And so I'm going to get to the Kanye thing in a moment. There's a video, and then he wants sort of a video thing on Instaghoul, and then him and Skeet Davidson got into a text exchange. But let's start here. Ted Lasso star calls for end of Russia invasion at award ceremony. So it's this dude here, Hannah Waddington, who, is all upset about the Russian invasion war, whatever's going on here.
But it would be remiss of us to not throw the focus to the most important thing that's happening in the world at the moment.
Is that something to do with the Ukraine? It would have been COVID a month ago, but now, now it's the Ukraine.
Our beautiful brothers and sisters, and for me, more importantly, the babies.
The babies. She cares most about the babies. The brother and sister, sure. But babies. Ada Whittington, that dude cares about babies.
The babies in the Ukraine that are being utterly decimated at the moment.
Utterly decimated at the moment. Again, not laughing at the suffering of babies. I hope you dopes realize this, right? I'm laughing at she just said the babies are being utterly decimated at the moment.
Beautiful brothers and sisters, and for me, more importantly, the babies in the Ukraine that are being utterly decimated at the moment.
Yeah, that's the... What about the Russian babies that are going to starve from the, the economic sanctions? Because that's going to happen. I mean, there's all these babies that are going to starve. Young children are going to starve from economic sanctions. Where was she when, there was a movie maybe called State Secrets. I don't know. Don't care. Don't need to know. It was an English movie, and it starred Keira Knightley. And she played, it was a true story, and she played an intelligence analyst that realized that America was trying to bully or get uh, Great Britain. You know, they called him. They called Tony Blair was his name. Uh, Bush's lapdog. Remember that in Britain. And the information that she leaked showed that there was an illegal war about to happen in Iraq. Right? We know about these wars that America and Britain and Libya and even the British Parliament put out a report about Libya and all the devastation that was done there based in faulty reasons for going to war. And none of these guys, I mean, maybe there's a few celebrities that call out, some of this stuff. There's that guy from Pink Floyd, Waters, not Gilmore, who's, all about the Palestinians or whatever. There are some celebrities that, try to, speak truth. But like these guys, these faketivists, that bandwagon faketivists, right?
From this putrid torrent of abuse. Please think of them as much as you can and give as much as you can. We are so grateful for this.
But there's more important things than us patting ourselves on the back and giving ourselves awards. There's actually real things going on in the world that I'm going to, make myself look good by talking about.
May this stop. May this stop, please. Thank you.
Please, may this stop, please. Who you begging to? Are you begging Satan? Please stop this war I'm not a part of, and, this particular war and the decimated babies in that particular region. Not the decimated babies from abortion or from other wars, but this war, these decimated babies. So Kanye's bumming.
Hey, everybody, I just got off the phone with Kim. I told her to stop antagonizing me with this TikTok thing. I said it's never again. I am her father. I know y'all don't respect fathers and the idea of family, and media tries to promote something. I said I am not allowing my daughter to be used by TikTok, to be used by Disney. I have a say-so.
So the first part to this is that I agree with the TikTok thing. I've talked about that before. Social media, especially for the young child of a celebrity, because their daughter North is a celebrity herself because she's born. She's a daughter of two famous parents. Social media is already rough on kids, and it's addictive, and there's a lot of creeps out there. I mean, all those things. But then you throw in that the kid's already a celebrity, and there's going to be exploitation. TikTok's a weird platform, and all this stuff that has to do with China and stuff with that. So, I mean, it's not a good thing. And, you can restrict things for your kids. Everyone has to figure this out for themselves. I talked about this in another video. We did for a number of years with our kids, but eventually they, saw their kids using it. So it has to be, you have to, oftentimes kids rebel more if you forbid something. They do it in secret, or they desperately want to do something, and you make it more important to them by forbidding it. So there's all those things. But the one thing is here, like he just got off a conversation with, crazy, with his, crazy skank of a wife, right? And you'd never go and like post something on social media or Instagram after that. Like in the heartfulness system, there's supposed to be, you're supposed to hit the pause button. Master Charge, you talk about hitting the pause button. And when you get emotionally upset, you have to wait till you get through that emotional response before you do something, especially in a divorce situation, because this isn't going to play well for them, right? They want him to be crazy. They want him to look crazy, right? Kim wants him to look crazy. The media wants him to look crazy. And so you don't feed crazy. I've said this about, truthers.
And then when people say, oh, they're going to use this for you in court, I didn't have a say-so on whether or not they went to Sierra Canyon. Most men do not, there's no such thing as 50-50 custody with in society today. That's not even, it always leans towards the mom. But right now, and I'm happy that you guys got to see just a small piece of what I dealt with. So,
well, most people aren't, right? Because people want to look at Kanye as being crazy because of some of the things he said, right? I mean, Kim Kardashian, let's go to those pictures. Remember, this was their Illuminati Christmas card from, 2011 or something like this, when the Illuminati were just becoming like popular and like a known entity, right? And I mean, here's this weird photo. The Kardashians, a very Merry Christmas, brand new, and then they got these kids and this ATM machine and the mom and this like poor kid right here, some sort of baby floating up here, right? And then here's Kim and there's that Courtney, whatever it is, I don't know, one of them, and there's an Illuminati, pyramid, the eye, and that's being accentuated, and just they're doing these sort of Egyptian poses here. And so it's just an effed up thing, right? It's just an effed up Christmas card. There's mental illness here. There's selloutness. There's another pyramid with an Illuminati eye over here, Egyptian stuff. And so what Kim Kardashian has done, what the Kardashians represent, when we were watching the documentary, my wife and I, and there was a moment, it was like later on the third part of the Kanye documentary. And his these and the Kardashians were there at some event, like a fashion show or something. And as a group, and the energy that exudes from them, like these Babylonian, hoes, right? These, they're just brutal. And like he's seen as the crazy one, right? They want Kanye to be seen as a crazy one, but what's saying about the Kardashians? They're like 15% or more silicon. They're just superficial and twisted. She's famous for being in a sex tape. I mean, there's no sanity there, right? They want to make her look like the rational one. That show she conducted just drove down vibrations and morality and intelligence, and it's just such they're like a horrible family.
When we had the Donda 2 release in Miami, I got a flight for all my kids to come from Calabasas to come in Miami to see the kids. Then assistant hit me and said, all the kids, they said the kids are there. When the plane took off, I got a text from Kim that said, North won't be on the plane. You see, this is the kind of stuff that's just like the Chicago birthday party. And I'm glad that y'all saw in the variety piece what I have to deal with. Here go another thing.
Yeah, well, I didn't see that.
Dove's high school basketball game. We hold one in California. My daughter loves basketball. I want her to see the league that her father is starting. North can't go to that game. Now we got Sunday service this morning at 10 a.m. and it's North had a sleepover, so she can't come to Sunday service. I moved the Sunday service up to 10 a.m. so that I can go to Saint soccer game at 12:30. Move the entire thing. So I called different people I knew, and
yeah, you did. So there was a little break there.
And the best advice I got right now was from Tory Lanez, and he just said to pray and ask for God to speak through me. I got 4 children, and there's so many people who don't have a voice and have the opportunity to be able to speak up. And just, God, if it is in your will, touch the people that are currently watching, my children, whatever sleepovers at, wherever they are at, the various nannies that watch all the children.
Yeah, because this is a nanny thing, right? These kids aren't raised by parents. They're traveling all over the place. Kanye's all over the place. So is his, ex-wife, whatever. They have an assortment of people that have more of an influence on the kids and spend more time with them. I mean, this is like the improper use of prayer because he should have prayed before he married frickin' that skank, right? I mean, whatever this is, he's admitted to being an actor in the documentary and, being a part of this whole thing. I mean, it's all fake. I cover these things like they're real because it's all fake. Like 3-dimensional reality is fake. We're in like some sort of, simulation. What's real is our soul. And what physical life, 3D life on Earth is an illusionary. And when you kind of get that, when you can remember that, it becomes easier, right? Because it's an illusion. You're like in a video game, right? But in terms of whatever fake this is, double fake, because it's a part of the show and a part of the celebrity culture. Just watching this and like you're commenting on, you're watching a TV show or whatever it might be. When he married that woman, this was inevitable. Like, she's not a good wife or mother, and he's whatever he is, right? Like, this was going to end this way. And, you know, you got lots bigger problems than TikTok. And, I mean, for these kids growing up in that house, in that environment, these kids are screwed, especially with what's about to happen, right? Prayer, yeah, sure, pray, but, you know, I mean, it's a little late for that. Like, if you married somebody who was a good Christian, I mean, because he's a Christian, a good God, loving person, then not God-fearing, but God-loving, right? Then you'd have a different situation here, even in divorce.
And touch them and say, please bring my children to Sunday service this morning at 10 a.m. You know, God, this is out of my hands. It's up to you. This whole conversation of custody, this whole narrative, gaslighting, all of this. It's like right now, this is up to you. I thank you for putting me in a position to be able to make Sunday service and put this online and have my family, be there.
You gotta get, when you're praying, you gotta get a little self-promo in.
My children be there to hear about God, to sing about God, to sing about Jesus Christ, for us to be able to have the first right, the freedom of speech in America, to still talk about God out loud. This morning, God, please, there's no reason why these young children, upon their father's request, shouldn't be allowed to come to Sunday service. At this point, it's going too far. God,
it's just going too far.
Please, the boyfriend texts me, antagonizing me, bragging about being in bed with my wife. I thought it publicly for a year and a half. I've been dragged, and how she's not my wife. She don't have a last name, and now he texting me, talking and bragging about how he's in bed with my wife, and I'm like, well, who's watching my children?
Yeah, it's the nannies. Skeet's texting him. We'll get into that in a moment.
He's texting me, bragging about being in bed with my wife. And I thought this wasn't my wife no more legally, since I got I got the lawyer to finally finish the divorce, because every time I finish the show, the Free Hoover show, the next day she dropping her last night. Every time I do something positive, it's something negative that's coming. I go and get the laptop from Ray J. Then she joking about divorce. I go and get the lawyer, change the lawyer so we can finally do the divorce. And then somehow I'm the one that's the stalker. God.
Yeah, why is he the stalker?
I just need to protect you protect the children. I know our nannies, some of them are Christian. You touch.
What are those nannies' names?
Them, please, God, today, and have them bring my children to Sunday service this morning. The devil ain't gonna win. You get what I'm saying? This is gaslighting. Kim gets black people out of prison. You know who puts black people in prison? The person that the boyfriend has a tattoo of, Hillary. You understand the setup right here?
Boom. So let's go taking on Hillary.
You understand the narrative right here? God, please, in your son's name, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, please make sure my kids come to Sunday service. Please. Amen.
Boom. So I don't think that prayer is going to work. I'm rooting for you, Kanye. But I don't think that prayer is actually going to work. Okay, so before we get into the email or tweet message exchange between Pete Davidson and Kanye, I saw on page 6 that the Kardashians have a new show, right? Just when you thought you were going to get rid of them like cockroaches, they've somehow got a new show that's on Hulu.
was a big change for us.
What do you mean life without cameras? It's 1 year.
I think it's time to see a whole new side of the family.
No, it's not. There's only one side of the family, and it's stupid, it's greedy, it's plastic, it's silicone, it's fake, it's annoying, it's pretentious. There's no other side, right? There's that one side, and I don't think we need to... You guys were out of the spotlight for 1 year.
So how does it feel to be back?
Looking dudeish. Come on. Like she's looking dudeish.
We've had so much time off. We've kind of gone into our own worlds.
Yeah, not good. They're not good worlds. Oh, going back to that, there's a couple of Illuminati stuff going on here.
I'm excited for this new chapter, and I've been in this game long enough to know.
She's been in the game. She's been in the game.
That you just have to be yourself.
You have to be yourself. Just be yourself. Don't be fake at all. Just be yourself.
I like you for who you are, not what you wear.
Oh, that's so touching. I like you for who you are, not what you wear, even though everything about you is about what you wear.
I'm just kidding, obviously.
My pregnancy is really public this time.
Yeah, she had a public pregnancy. It was just so public.
I feel like we're being chased.
Tristan and I are complicated. Trust.
You know, Tristan Thompson, who comes in and takes time off from his regular job of getting dunked on, they have hilarious conversations.
Takes time. Travis and I want to have a baby.
Her and Travis they're looking for babies.
Put the sample in this cup.
We'll take our mics off. You don't get the audio.
Exactly. Just, he's got a sample. You're gonna be a part of the sampling. Their hair. What's up with the hair? Who's that? Is that a Kardashian? So my wife came in while I was editing and we were talking and she said, hey, it was on this thing that said Butt Family. She goes, who's the Butt Family? And I was like, I don't know, the Kardashians. And so that's how nicknames are born. It's the Butt Family with a lot of hair. The family is forever.
This is a relationship that I don't think anybody saw coming.
Boom. They're gonna get Skeet in on this, right? Skeet and her together.
Coming.
Who are you texting, Ken? Does his name rhyme with feet?
And Skeet?
It's so easy to comment on people when you have no idea what they're actually going through.
There's the wisdom. It's just so wise and kind and wonderful, this show. This family is just, they're such a gem. You can't keep them off the air.
It is really hard with Kanye. He told me my career's over.
Why are we always thinking?
He told you your career was over and just when you were going to get a new show and everything. How dare he?
It is really hard with Kanye. He told me my career's over.
Why are we always making excuses for the people that traumatize us?
Why are we always doing it? Why do we make excuses for these guys who aren't traumatize us? We're just such wonderful women. Why are we always getting traumatized by these? Why do we make excuses?
Ow, this is so ridiculous.
Wait, who traumatized who in this one? Did she get traumatized by the mom or the mom? Who's traumatizing who?
Ridiculous.
We have all the time and all of the resources to burn them all to the ground.
Whoa, she's showing her claws. Burn them all to the oven ground.
Never go against the family.
Never go against the family.
Whoa, devil's horns. Somebody's throwing up devil's horns. It's that one. Jeez, I missed it like 3 times. Ready? Boom. I got it. It's got the tongue and the horns. This one that got into the fight with Kim. I only know this from the trailers and what's on page 6. I'm not, it's very limited I've seen, but when I watched the trailers for the last season, it was so bad. I couldn't believe that people actually watch it, but of course I can because, it's the year of the dummy. It's the land of the dummy. Boom. Look at those Kardashians. That's a big one there. Hulu. Okay, so there's that. You can clearly see they're going to monetize this breakup with Kanye, right? And you're still going to play Kim as the victim, all these things. There's a 13-year age gap between Skeet Davidson and Kim Kardashian. I gotta get a nickname for her. But, it's not a real relationship. And I said this before. Pete Davidson mocked Kanye for his mental illness. They're both, Pete Davidson has borderline personality disorder and other things that he's talked about. And he's on multiple medications, and he's a messed up dude, right? And so, dead presidents. And so he's just so ghoulish and, all that stuff, right? And, he's with this woman who's going through a divorce. It's much older. I don't know how much it's staged and fake or whatever, and don't care. But if you were going to provoke somebody, if you wanted to provoke them, especially somebody like Kanye, you would take somebody who's openly mocked him on Saturday Night Live, publicly mocked him, which I said before, and you would trigger Kanye so he would act crazy, and you would date somebody like this that in a relationship that's doomed, anything with this, with this nightmare of a human being, Kim Kardashian, and this ghoul is doomed for a short-lived relationship, right? Kanye West told me my career was over. That's how I found out about this new show. Kanye West told me my career was over. That's how I found out about this wonderful new show on Hulu. You're getting your Hulu money out. Pete Davidson tells Kanye West to grow the F up and publicize text exchange. He starts it off here. Yo, it's Skeet. Can you please take a second and calm down? It's 8 a.m. and it don't gotta be like this. You tell him, Skeet. It don't gotta be like this, Skeet. If you understand what Skeet is, Dave Chappelle's got a comedy bit on Skeet that you can find on YouTube, I think. Kim is literally the best mother I've ever met. That's not how it sounds. Kim is literally the best mother like I've ever met. I've heard this line before when my ex's new husband wrote to me. Not the exact same line, but I'll talk about that afterwards because it's kind of funny. But come on, that's the best. What are the other mothers you've met, bro? Because she ain't the best one. Come on. What she does for those kids is amazing, and you are so effing lucky that she's your kid's mom. I've decided I'm not going to let you treat us this way anymore. And I'm done being quiet. Grow the F up. Skeet, you think you're an adult? He thinks he's an adult. And he said, so Kanye said, so you use profanity now? Where are you right now? I'm in bed with your wife, replied with a selfie. Kablowy. And so he's not going to take it anymore. I'm in LA for the day if you want to stop being a little internet bitch boy and talk. Pete Davidson is a tough guy all of a sudden. At this point, it's going too far. The boyfriend texts me and antagonizes me, bragging about being in bed with my wife. That was what preceded the rant, right? And then this was from page 6. I don't know if there's the stuff he said Kanye was saying. So he had a post where he said a message from Pete, and he posted the whole thing in his Instagram. So I wanted to in terms of this thing with Pete Davidson and Kanye, when my ex and I split up. So my ex came back to America. I've talked about this in other videos to do with the Journey series. And she was trying to reboot her thyroid, and we were not in contact. And, it was clear that it was pretty hostile, and we had completely different narratives and perceptions of reality before she left for America. And I was in India with the kids, and my kids were in crisis, all these things. I mean, we were in a difficult situation. And she ended up hooking up with another guy. And, about a year later, he wrote to me. We had returned to America. And he wrote a letter like, it began like, "Hey, Paul," like, like that's what sound of the tone. Guess what? I want to talk to you about how me and my ex, he named my ex-wife by name. Let's just call her Callie for no particular reason. We see how me and Callie reconnected. It's a wonderful story. Like, I'd like to share it with you. Now, by that time, I was pretty happy about them hooking up, and I'll explain that in a moment, right? But either way, nobody wants to hear about how you hooked up with their ex, right? Like, even if you're completely over it, you're just not interested in that. Like, I want to tell you the story because they knew each other years and years ago. And so he must have liked her or something. I don't know what's going on. And then they had this opportunity, whatever it was. I don't care. But him starting the letter like that, and he also said, Callie says she doesn't want me to write to you, but I'm going to do it anyway. And so then the letter went on to talk about, he said something similar to what Skeet Davidson said. And he said, there's a lot of problems here, and Kylie's great. She's like perfect, so it's got to be you. Like, this is, like, I've never met this guy, right? And I'm like, just wait. Like, I know Kylie. I know my ex better than anybody. And so, I've been through it, and she has two sides, and you haven't seen the other side yet. And I don't care if he, I don't have any, it would be funny for me if he saw the other side and he ends up, and he already had a bad ex-wife that he said had a similar psychological condition that I believe my ex had, right? And so he's already been married to this type of woman before, unless he had, I don't know. But he's had a bad divorce before in which his kids were estranged. Like, I don't know. This is stuff, little bits and pieces my kids have, like, said to me. And I, like I've said before, I don't like hearing about it because I'm not interested. The less I hear about it, the better. The less that they're in my life, the better. But he said the same sort of thing as Pete Davidson did. And until you're on the other side of the thing, you don't know how good that person is. Like, you're just saying, oh, wow, they're perfect. Well, yeah, because you're in some honeymoon phase. But don't go and tell me how perfect she is because I know she's not, right? like I've seen the other side. And the thing about it is, like, I'm glad the guy was with her because it took the focus off of me. And so once they got together, first of all, my ex, like, I don't think she was ever single. I think she had a 6-month period maybe or something like that she was single from the time she was 16 to the time she's in, I believe she must be 60 something now, right? She's like 61 or 62. So in that entire period of her life, when she started dating when she was in high school, she was with a guy for all of that time. And, except for 6 months, maybe multiple guys. She was dating multiple guys, but she was never single. And so, like, this was somebody who started dating somebody else before she got divorced in these things, right? So she went from one relationship to another. She's on her third marriage. And she just was like, somebody who lights a cigarette with a cigarette, right? And, I was over it. And I just, I was dealing with the kids and I was just putting off dealing with her until, things settled and maybe went back to America or whatever. But, as far as I was concerned, unless she apologized and admitted whatever she had done was wrong, and she was willing to work on her multiple dysfunction and the nightmare she was to be married to, and legitimately take ownership for what a nightmare she was. Like, she never was going to do that, but that was the only possibility of us getting back together, was that she finally said, I'm going to work on my, my mental whatever it was, right? The mess that she was internally. And, I knew she wasn't going to do that, but, at least there was a possibility. And for whatever, the kids' sake, that was the only chance. And we hadn't talked for months. And she ended up hooking up with this guy when we were going through a flood that, a natural, a flood that was caused by them opening up the floodgates in Chennai, India. And me and my kids being without electricity and internet for over a week. And then just, all the other, it was a natural disaster, right? And she hooked up with this guy then, and she could have told me. She could have told me any time, and she came up with some BS excuse, but she keeps secrets, she lies, she's manipulative, all these things, right? It's just what she does. And when I found out on Facebook, which I've said before, which was the wrong way to do it, right, obviously. And, it was a bad time because I was worried about her. That's why I went to her Facebook page, because I wrote to her and she didn't respond. And my daughter said she was paralyzed. And I was like really legitimately concerned. And I wrote a nice letter to her saying, I'm concerned about you. Are you okay? And she was lying to my daughter because she obviously wasn't paralyzed because she was, banging this other dude. And so, like she could have done it the right way. And the fact that she was with this guy just made the whole thing clean, right? The way she handled it. And she finally, after I asked her, when I figured out she was with another guy, and I asked her, you seeing somebody else? She waited 5 days to write to me. And she never owned up and said, no, I'm with this guy. She said she had a business partner. Just like complete lies, right? Like I already know it was confirmed by her son. Like my daughter, Anna, asked her, her stepbrother, her half-brother, about it, and he said, yeah. And so it was already confirmed. We already knew it. Like me and the kids already knew it, right? And so she waited 5 days and then blamed me and, took a shot at the YouTube channel and just was like completely sucky. And that made it great for me. It made it so much better and easier. And this thing could make it great for Kanye for however much this relationship is actually real or just not some staged Hollywood thing. That, if you have a relationship like this, and you're dating a nightmare, because there's women who just suck, right? In divorces, if both people are good, loving people, there's no reason for a divorce. If both people are good, functioning, people who can love and give in these things, there's just no reason for divorce. There's no reason for good people to divorce. Like they should never divorce because it's a nightmare out there, and you're never going to, you're going to roll the dice, right? Like you're not going to get another good person more than likely. If you're a good person and the other person's a good person and you're functional and you can, whatever it is, right? Sometimes there's circumstantial stressors and things, events, maybe a death of a child. There can be things that just, break good people up, and those things happen. But the likelihood of you getting another quality person, the odds of it are extremely low because, it's about, 10% of, people are good spouses and good, just overall good people. And so usually it's one good person with a bad person, or more likely two, not so great people or horrible people that are together, right? And so both people suck. But if you happen to be a person that can be in a functional relationship and you're in a relationship with a bad person, and you're trying to make it work, and then it just doesn't, it collapses, you should just click your heels together and celebrate. Like, that's what I did. I was like, and the way it went down and the way that she did it, it made it so clean and so easy for me to walk away, the lies and deceptions and manipulations. And it made me, like I didn't have to look back, right? And the way that I had been, I got better over the years. I wasn't so great in the beginning, but I got more loving and more, selfless over the years, and I sacrificed more and more of my own, needs and things for, the relationship and whatever was going on to keep it afloat. And so that made it good too, right? So if you do everything possible on your end, like if you, you say, all right, I'm going to do all I can do to save this relationship, and the other person doesn't rise up to it, then, that's the best possible divorce situation. I'm not saying Kanye, Kanye and all these celebrities are self-involved. There's not really a good way for a celebrity. The celebrity can marry a saint. Other than that, there's no chance of that being a real relationship or a good relationship, right? Because it would have to be a saint to put up with a celebrity. I cover these people all the time, all these celebrities. And when two celebrities marry each other, it's just, and a lot of these relationships are fake and they're staged and they're, for branding and things like this. But when you're with a negative person or somebody who's a horrible, especially, there's lots of bad men out there, but the negative women, the soul-eating women, the women that are just twisted and manipulative and have psychological issues. And they're so good at acting one way or pretending to be one way or, conning people into believing in them and supporting them, especially the ones who are just filled with victim consciousness and are always victims. If you're in a relationship with somebody like that, this is how Kim is going to play this relationship out, that Kanye's mentally ill and horrible person, and she's the victim. They're going to, put this on the show, and they're going to make it all about that and that kind of stuff, right? And with the kids, she's got to protect the kids. But she went in a relationship with this Skeet, character who's like a complete ghoul and just, he's not marriage material, right? And really neither is she. And like the self-centeredness and just all of it, right? Like the best thing you can do is realize it and walk away. Like, stop being triggered. If Kanye was smart and realized you've been given a gift. Because, when I saw that my ex was with this guy, then like at some point, there's an arc. At some point, like all the negative energy is going to be turned towards him. If history has taught us anything, And so I'm like, all right, good. Take the focus off of me. Because again, like I was struggling just to make the divorce official. Like my lawyer is the one who got the divorce done, right? And I'm the one who like made the concessions to make it, just go away, even though she had been living with this guy for 2 years. And maybe because she didn't want to take his name. He should have realized she was far from perfect when she wouldn't take his name and made him change his name to the name that she picked. And so, good luck with that, buddy. I was like, you have no idea. Was like, when I read the letter, I'm like, oh, again, it just went bullet point by bullet point with all the things, my estranged kids said about me and, other people or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, okay. You think you know me and you don't. And I'm far from perfect. I'm not like, but my stuff is out there. Like you can see my stuff in these videos, right? You can see my, the difficulties of my personality, the mocking, whatever might be there. Like it's just, I'm not hiding stuff. Like I'm not pretending to be a saint or a nice person. I know, I'm not faking something, right? But then wait till the curtain drops, bro. Like, and again, like if it doesn't drop, fine. I'm not, I don't care. I'm not like observing and waiting for something. But when it does drop, if it does drop, like you have a whole world of shit awaiting you. All right. And so, again, the best way is one more thing about this, and I've talked about this before. If you stop looking at your partner as a love source, your wife or husband or whatever it is, right? And you connect to God and you have a horizontal relationship with God, and both people do this, and you both are serving God, by serving your spouse and, being there and being a good spouse, you're doing it for God and not the other person. You're also doing it for the other person, but you're doing it for God as well. And so you don't, feel bitter or whatever. It's like service to God. You be the best husband or wife for your significant other for service for God, right? And that's, then you have a vertical relationship as well as a horizontal relationship. But if you just have the horizontal relationship, you suck love off of each other instead of getting it from the source, right? And this is, the beauty of the heartfulness system. Master Chargy said, have you given bliss, right? You want bliss, but have you given bliss to anybody else? You expect, your significant other and other people to give you unconditional love, but if you've given that, how can you ask for something you haven't done yourself, right? And so, when you do that, then whatever, you can walk away and say, all right, I did all I could. The other person sucked, right? If you legitimately do it, not some narcissistic rationalization, but if you, are loving and supportive and you repress your desire to be critical and be harsh and things like this, whatever it might be, and just, search for gratitude and be grateful for your significant other and for God and all these things. And then, if things don't go well, it's be the other person's fault, right? It's not yours because you've looked for gratitude. You've, given as much as you can give, and the other person can't reciprocate, then, then just be glad when they're gone, right? No matter what your attachment is to them. Like once the dust settles, you're going to be like, oh my God, that person was a freaking burden on me, in every possible way. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely important for the apocalaughs and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.